Hi, it's Lil from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. If you're new to our channel, we do furniture makeovers and reimagine furniture. I'm a furniture artist. If you're not new to our channel, thanks very much for keeping on watching us. So what's the victim today in the stable? I'm just going to get Martin to pan down and I'll show you it. It's old. It's a canteen for your, for your cutlery. All the drawers have got felt in. I'm not cleaning out the drawers right now because I'm about to cover the piece in moulds. So, and that's going to make more mess. It's in pretty rough shape. Now, I did a piece recently on my, I didn't do a video on it. It's called Cocoa. It's blue. It's got lots of gold molds all over it and a lot of distress, a lot of blending, a little bit of everything on it, and I have been inundated with comments of could I do a video on it. So it's this piece up here.
The other way.
Aha, Martin's showing me which way to point. This piece here. And we are going to be recreating something very similar using different colours. The same sort of, I'm going to show you how I put the molds on, how we did the blending, and how I created that piece, but with a smaller piece of furniture. I'm still pointing like it's really there, but I know it's not. Anyway, okay, so follow along and let's see how we get on. Okay, applying molds to furniture. First rule of thumb is never ever apply molds if your piece is already painted. I've done it in the past, but really you want the best adhesion onto your piece. So if you paint it first, it's more likely to be chipped and banged. Now, how am I going to be applying my molds today? Like the other piece that I showed you, you can do one or two things. Today I'm going to be using paper clay. I use Das clay, and the reason why I use Das clay is I actually used to be a potter. I used to be a ceramic artist. I really like this clay. I like it for many reasons, but it's never ever seen me wrong. When you apply, people go, oh, but is it going to hold up? Can I just tell you, if you put this on a piece of furniture, because I have done this, you're going to need a chisel to get it back off. Ask me how I know, because I've had to chisel it off of furniture before. So once it's on there, it's on there. And my reason for this is because I want it to have that sort of cracked, aged feel. You can use amazing casting resin. I've got amazing casting resin here. You can use that. It gives a slicker, more defined mold. But because these are lots of tiny little drawers, I would be continually trying to get it out of the mold when it was still soft so that I could cut it, so that I could apply it, and it's not going to give that sort of old world. The reason why my last piece was called Cocoa, because it's a kind of rococo finish, and I wanted it to look a little bit dented and broken, and there was a look I was going for. So amazing casting resin's perfect if you're looking for that slick application. But today I'm going to be using Das clay. Now Martin will drop you a link to this, but he buys me Das clay in a great big bucket. I think there's 6 in this. It's a school tub, and it's really reasonable. I think this works out at £4 each for one of these great big blocks if you buy this big bucket. So why wouldn't you? What else do you need for applying molds to furniture? You need corn flour. I think it's maybe called cornstarch other places, corn flour in the UK. And a really strong glue, one that isn't too runny. You need something with a little bit of tooth in it. I use this. It comes from the pound shop. It is the best glue I've ever used. It's a no nails sort of type of glue. It's really thick, and it gives really good, even at this, it won't fall off even standing up like this. It's not going to slide. I don't need to tape it, anything like that. So you need a good glue, and you need obviously some molds. What molds you choose to use. Now you can do this with one mold, or you can do it with 20 molds. It's up to you. One mold is suffice. You don't need to have all these molds. I'm not advocating you go out and buy millions of molds. That's not what this is about. It's about doing it with one mold if that's all you've got, and that's enough. So what I'm going to do before I start is, because I'll get set up and I'll show you how to cast one mold, and I've done a few down here just to get us started. But like the other piece, what I did was I wanted to kind of have a piece in the middle. Now I've taken the handles off because I'm going to put small handles on either side because I want my sort of florals to go in the middle. So all I've done is, working with a piece of furniture, is I've just done some dots just to kind of roughly keep me in the shape, and all I'm going to do is sort of join those up and make a shape. It's going to be a kind of this sort of shape, just joining. I didn't measure it. I mean, I didn't go daft. Round to this side and just do the same at the other side. So I'm just got a sort of rough shape that my molds, I know that my molds can't, now already I can see this is a little bit off. I know that my molds can't go in this section, so that's all I'm going to do, and I can tidy this up in a minute just off camera, just so that it's more the shape I'm looking for. But this is the kind of shape, and I'll probably bring it right down to this lip here and right up to this lip here, but I will straighten that all out in a minute. So that's the kind of shape I'm looking for, and we are going to apply our molds on these parts here. Now you could, with the other piece of furniture I was using things like, let me show you, my last piece was predominantly all IOD molds, but this time I'm kind of mixing and matching. In my last piece of furniture I was using quite big molds, but because my drawers are quite thin, I don't want anything too big, although I have cast over here a big sunflower, which I'm going to do 2 of these, and I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But I've done a sort of selection to get us started. So off camera I'm just going to tidy up this shape, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to cast one and my thinking of how I'd like to apply them. Okay, so I'm going to be just showing you quickly. So rub that in, rub your cornstarch into it. Don't have too much in it, it takes away a lot of definition if it's absolutely full. And I've just got a tiny little piece here just to show you. So what I do is, I do this with my hands. I try and keep my hand on it flat. You don't want to move it because then you'll have a double impression, and that's not so good. And then you can use a spatula. I use this. This is perfect for me. The IOD molds have a micro rim. If you can see this little rim round here, that makes it really smooth when you pull it out. The redesigned by Prima molds, they don't have that, but either or, it just means you've got a wee bit more cleanup on these ones than the other ones. And then what you do is, to get your mold out, is you tip it upside down. Do not pull it out of the mold. Tip it upside down and let gravity just make it fall out. If it's something really complicated, just work it, just take your time and just be gentle with it, and it should be perfect every time. Now, what have we got here? I've done these ones, and I've done these ones, just to get us sort of started on how I want to do some of my positioning. Now, I would like to have here and here, here and here, sorry, I'm working too fast, Martin can't keep up with me. Here and here, I'm going to put some of these key molds here and here, because I'm going to put the handles through there on either side. So I know that for a start off, so I'm just going to show you how I glue them. Some people use a lollipop stick. I just use my finger. There's a shocker, eh? Now the glue is really thick. My glue is really thick. You have to make sure you get it right to the very edges, because that's the place where it gets vulnerable if it's knocked. So you need to take it right to the edges. And I'm sure you've seen me do loads of molds before, but it's just in case you're new and you've never used molds before. So it's covered, and I'm just going to eyeball where I think I want my handles. I think I'm going to be wanting them about here. I will need an inch tape now to make sure that I've got it the same at both sides, but So that's where my first mould's going to go. And now pretty much is a free-for-all. Now, I cast these and I'll list all the moulds that I've used. And I'm thinking I'm either going to go this way down it or this way down it. But I think probably I'm going to go start with this one. Now this could get a wee bit boring because all I'm going to do now is just sit and glue moulds on. So I'll kind of like halfway through I'll show you where I'm going and how much I've done and why I've done what I've done. But you get the gist. You glue, you cast your moulds, and then really you just kind of apply it onto the furniture. Now, because they're so soft still, you have to be really careful when you pat them down. You don't want any definition lost, but also you don't want any raised bits. And you can probably, like, you can paint it right now if you wanted, but I'm not. I'm not going to wait till it's properly dry, but I'm going to wait until there's a crust on it before I paint it. So it'll probably be tomorrow now. Just make sure you don't lose any definition. So I'm doing that. You have to be really careful of where your drawers are. Don't have them coming across drawers. So I'm just going to go on and I'm going to do the first kind of couple, and I'm just going to start applying the moulds in a way that I think is nice. I filled the holes here and we're going to have some either transfer or decoupage or something in the middle. I think that's a good start. I've just spilt cream paint on the floor. Yeah. The one that I put on my social media was different shades of blue, and I'll just tell you the colours that went into that one. It was Provence, it was Giverny, and Emperor's Silk. That was the sort of colours that I used on that one, and I blended them together with a little bit of a Buisson blue. But for this one, I'm wanting dual tones of greens, so I'm going with Florence, which is this colour. Now, when you're doing a blended look, I always like to have one solid colour on the bottom. Some people put all their blend on at once and then repeat the process. I just want to have good coverage all over, especially when there's so many moulds on it. So my mid colour is the Florence, so that's going to be my base coat, and I'm going to do 2 good coats before I do anything else. So this is my mid colour, and that's what I'm going to undercoat it with, 2 canvas coats. Then the other colours I'm going to use is this here, which is a beautiful sort of jadey green. This is a Cornish milk mineral paint, and it's called Siren, and it's lovely. And my third lighter green is Furl, and it's Annie Sloan. But let's do the Florence first. Now, when you're painting moulds, you have to these are actually dry. I should have said, actually, I was supposed to come back to you and show you these moulds, but I don't know if you can hear it in my throat. I ended up being really sick and I went to bed, and I was just rushing to get it finished so I could go to bed. So this is actually dry now. So when you're painting moulds, you have to kind of do sideways, up and down, in the middle, and just keep working all your paint in. It helps if you have a spray, which mine is over there. So but you have to make sure that there's no parts of white. You do not want any white. It ruins it at the end if you look at your piece and you have white. So you have to kind of go round it, and it takes a bit of time to do this. You're not going to be able to do this in 5 minutes. So I'm going to go on, right? And I'm going to coat this once, let it dry, and then coat it again. And then we'll get on to the fun part of blending all our colours together. Okay, so many people write to me, and so many people ask me in comments about blending, how to do blending. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways. I'm going to show you a blended detail with the raised moulds on the front, and I'm going to just show you simple blending on the sides and the top, and then that way you've got 2 different. And there are other ways. If you go onto YouTube and you look at furniture blending, you will see nobody does it the same way, really. And that says to me that there isn't any right or wrong way. So find your own way, but this is how I do it. So I'm going to show you how to blend 3 colours because I want a sort of dually toned piece. So this is dry. It's had 2 coats. I think I've got all the white bits. And I'm going to start with my dark colour, which is my Siren. Now, you'll see I'm not going to be using a terrifically massive brush. I'm wanting to just put it up here because that's going to kind of edge my piece. So let's just work on these two drawers right now. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, if you live in a hot country, you're going to need loads of water because paint doesn't blend without it. So I think that's the kind of look I'm going to go for with the dark here. Now, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of my fleurons on here, just here, just to make that run. Here, there we go. Bring that down to there. There we go. And then I'm going to come back with another brush and put my furrow on here. I'm just going to swap over brushes because that one's rubbish. And you can see I'm not using massive brushes here. I'm just using like small artist brushes. I'm going to do the same on this side. Now the next thing you're going to need is a clean brush. And that is your neutral brush. And you're going to need a rag to keep cleaning, and you're going to need some water. Now, so I've got 1, 2, 3 colours on here like that. Now, this is my neutral brush. Now, my neutral brush is quite damp already, which is quite good. Actually, it looks a little bit sort of grimy. So my cloth is quite damp. So here's my dark, into my light, into my green. So let's just start with this. Let's just start blending this here with into our fleurons. So we're putting our siren into our fleurons like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to clean our brush like that. And then we're going to work in our furrow up into our Provence like this. And I'm going to clean my brush again. And then I'm going to brush this backwards. I don't want all of that there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these two in the middle like that. So we have a gradient. So you can see we've got our dark, we've got our mid, and we've got our light like that. And that is how you blend when there's a load of detail on it. So this side would be the same. So we're going to bring, so you can every which way strokes into your, bring your siren into your fleurons like that. Now clean your brush because you don't want to contaminate. You want to keep this here dark. If you feel that that's got a little bit too light, put a wee bit more dark onto it. And you're bringing that into there. You're cleaning your brush in a minute. So you're cleaning your brush like this. And then you're bringing, make sure you get down into all of those. You're bringing your furrow into your Provence. And that is blending when it comes to a lot of moulds. Now I don't want those really obvious yellow parts. So I'm going to, now I've shown you that, I'm just going to go on and I'm going to do, I'll do one more drawer so that everybody gets it, and then I'm going to go on and I'm going to finish it because I'll do this side here and it makes it a wee bit easier for Marty.
Yeah.
He was pointing going this side. So we've got our furrow on here. That is a rubbish brush. Yeah. There we go. And bring that into there like that. And then we're getting our Provence and we're putting our Provence in the middle. I'm not entirely sure right now where I'm loving the furrow, whether it's making it, whether it's sending it off for me. I'm not quite sure. We'll see once it dries up a bit. So clean your brush Mixing that into there like that. And you'll know when you've got it the way you want it. And when you have, stop. Don't keep going. Clean your brush. And bring this in. Clean your brush. I need to put a wee bit more dark on here. Bring this in. Yeah. There we go. So you get the principle. That's all I'm going to do now. I'm just going to blend all this out. I'm not entirely sure about this yellow. We'll see once it dries off. Maybe I do like it. We'll see how it goes. For tops, I've already laid my paint down. So I've got my dark, my mid and my light. And this is just the simplest kind of blending. Let's move in the blue into the fleurons and the fleurons into the blue. And you just need to keep working away until you get something that you're happy with. Now, I'm not going for perfect squares, so I want to kind of move that out a little bit to the edge. And I want to bring some of the lighter colour over to the front. So I'm just manipulating my paint. I haven't got a lot of water because my brush was already quite wet and my conditions here are very cold and damp, so I'm not needing. So I'm kind of happy. I'm just going to go each way just to blend that in there, and the same here. Until I get what I want round my edges. Now blending takes a little bit of time. I'm trying to do this quite reasonably quickly. Now clean your brush because you don't want to be having too much paint on your brush. Then you're going to put your yellow into your fleurons. And I want quite a big area of yellow, so I'm going to go kind of always back and forward, back and forward, back and forward, just to kind of keep my yellow in the centre, but still have enough definition with my blend. Now this is really, really simple blending. Just cleaning my brush here because I don't want to kind of get, this is kind of quite a cloudy blend, but this is the simplest way to get what you're looking for. This is a really simple, easy blend when you're just looking for a lighter and then a little bit lighter and then a dark around the edges. You have to make sure that your neutral brush doesn't get contaminated, and if you feel like it's not quite right around the edges, just put a little bit more dark on. But I'm just going for something quite like that. I quite like it, and in a minute I'm going to get Mark to show you the size because it's just the same principle. This is the same blend basically as on the top. I've just separated it into two panels. So there's the dark, there's the fleurons, and there's your yellow, your furl in the middle. And that's all I've done. I've made, it's a very simple sort of kind of like quite smart looking blend. I'm just leaving it like that. Make sure when you've blended your top that you make sure you put your dark under this lip at the front. This is the front. So again, just following the blending of the sides, our dark, our mid and our light, and then I've put our dark and mid in the centre. There's going to be something in that, so I'm not too worried about it. And I'm going to go on and I'm going to do the other side now, and then all our blend is done, and then we're going to start getting to all the fun parts. Okay, so what I've done now is I'm just going around, and this is what I did with the other one. I'm just wet distressing it to give it a really sort of aged look. I haven't gone crazy, it's just here and there and everywhere that I've done it. Now in the other one that I did, I painted this and I sanded all this off so that it was just little bits of paint, but I'm not going to do that in this one. But if you want that sort of really kind of aged and really distressed look, that's how I did it in the last. I just got sandpaper and I kept some of the colour so that there was some colour behind it, but I quite like this little blend that I've got here going on. So, and I'm just going to use the same transfer as I used on the other one as well, which is Wallflower. So I'm just cutting up pieces and parts, and obviously because I've got the yellow, I want to try and get this yellow one on. So let's see how this kind of looks. I want it to kind of be something like that. And I do not have a transfer stick, so we're going with the Loom paint stick right now. Across the top of there, into our little recess of our drawers, right up to the edge of the molds that I put on, right in that crease, right to the top here. And I'm going to sand this at the end. I just wasn't going to sand the whole thing back on this one. I'm going to take that right to the edges. So I've kind of got it down now, and now I'm just going to like apply it. So off camera, I've got one more sheet with some parts on it, and I'm just going to make these parts work in this gap. So when you come back, you'll see all these are put in there. Okay. Okay, so I've applied the transfer just in small sections, just to make it look like it's got a floral on it. And what I did with the last one was I really kind of heavily distressed it back. I just laid into it with a sandpaper, around the edges, and I really kind of like scuffed it up a bit. Had the blush thrown shoot through. I've already done some wet distress on this area, taken some of the paint off. And really what I'm doing is I'm just making it kind of like look like old. Like it's been on there, but it's kind of rubbed off it. Now you don't have to do this part, but this was what I did with the last one, and everybody was asking about the last one. So I'm just trying to keep it as close to the other one as I can. Right, so I think I'm quite happy with that. Can you guess what's coming up next? The fun part. So I've got some gold, and literally, and this is all I did with the last one. I'm just going to put a little bit of gold in the cap because it's getting down a bit and I don't want to have to keep sticking my finger down inside it. So just a tiny amount on your finger, and then just start bringing out all of your details. And this takes a wee bit of time. You can put it on heavier in some areas and lighter on other areas. It's just really to bring out all that amazing detail. And this is what I did with the last one. I'm going to do all of this, and then we're going to clear wax this piece. But I'm also, once I've clear waxed it, I'm going to show you a dark wax stencil that I did on the other one. So there's more to come on this, but there, just to show you there, that's what I'm doing. So I'm making sure I've got all this sort of details covered in gold. Okay, so I'm going to go on and do the rest of my molds and round my edges, and then we're going to get to some waxing. Okay, just to recap what we've done so far, this is actually more for me than you, because although you're just following along, I've actually been in bed for 10 days. So I'm back now and we're dealing with this. So what did we do? That was me, and I've done all of the gold details using the gold gilding acrylics. So we've done that. We've done our blend on the top, our blend on the sides, and we've put our IOD wallflower transfer in the middle. Now, the next thing we're going to do is, now I toyed with doing this or not, because in the other piece that we're, that we're trying to, everybody wanted to see me do, it had some other little bits of colour in it. So although this is our initial blend, I'm going to pick out the red, and all I'm going to do is going to water down some paint and just put some red areas in the front. Then we're going to do clear wax, the whole piece, loads of clear wax, because we're really going to add lots of dark wax into the details. And on the top, I'm going to do a dark wax, and on the side, a dark wax stencil. But we'll get on to doing this red first. So what you need is, once you've done your sort of coordinating, like you've got your transfer, your decoupage paper, your stamping, or whatever you've got in the middle, if you want to, and you've done your blend and you've done your gold, if you want to come back and find an accent colour just to highlight it, that's fine. I won't be putting it on the top or the sides, just on the front. So I've got Annie Sloan's Emperor's Silk here. Oh, that's noisy. So I'm going to just get set up to a different angle so that Martin can show you what I'm about to do.
So obviously this piece is completely dry. It's been over here for a couple of weeks now. So what I've kind of watered down my brush a little bit, and I'm just going to find some sort of little kind of accent pieces that I think are good enough. Then all I'm going to do is squish them and kind of like give that a little bit of a water down in there. Squish it a bit more and then just wipe it back. Give it a squish and wipe it back. Now, you don't have to do this part. This is just what I did with the other one. And, you know, that was one of the things that I was trying to keep it as close to what I did before. Now, you don't want to oversaturate your piece because in a minute I'm going to have to dry this quickly with a hot gun so that we can get on to waxing. Just maybe a little bit up in here. And again, water it down. And just let it drip and kind of like settle into it. You don't need too much, just a tiny little bit, and you don't want to have too much of this, just a little bit where you think it might need it. I'm going to go along and up this side of this drawer here, and then I'm just going to water it down and let it run. Water it down and let it run. There we go. So once you've got quite runny, that's your best sort of option to kind of, and then just do that. There you go. Let it settle in the grooves. Yeah, that's probably, and maybe to balance here, maybe think of something like here. Dip back in my red. And just keep that running down here. And that is all I'm actually going to do to that. I think that any more is too much. Oh, okay, well, that little bit down there then. Let's just move my paint out of the way. So, there we go. Now, that's all I'm going to do. I quite like this here where it's kind of right running. I'm going to quickly dry it with my hot gun, and then I'm going to thoroughly, and I'm not going to show you me doing this, but obviously I've got some clear wax here, my clear wax brush. I'm going to completely cover it in wax, clear wax, and then we'll get onto all the detail with the dark wax. Okay, so I've completely waxed the top, and now I want to put some detail on, and I actually did this in the other one as well. So what I've got here is I've got a stencil and my dark wax brush with some dark wax on it, and all I'm doing is I'm just doing like you would normally do when you're stenciling, but I'm just stenciling with the dark wax into my my stencil like this, making sure that I've got it all in it. Lift it off, and with the last one I didn't particularly like plan it, I just kind of eyeballed it. So I'm just doing the same thing again. You don't need a huge amount of dark wax on your brush, just a little bit, and if you make a mistake because you've got the clear wax underneath it, you can just wipe it away and you can start again. And if it's not coming off, you can just use a little bit of clear wax on your brush and use it as a kind of eraser to rub it off. So you can always try this out on something else. It's a nice one to do if you're looking for something a little bit grand and a wee bit fancy. So I'm going to go on, I'm going to do the top of this. I'm going to do this same design, kind of staggered design on the side panels as well. So I'll do that, and then we'll get to all the fun dark details on the front. We're getting there now. So we've done our stenciling on the top with our dark wax over our layer of clear wax, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to age detail all the details in here, and this is exactly the same way as I did it with the last one. So because it's all been waxed, you don't need to worry too much about really going to town with the dark wax. I really wanted it in and around here, and I put quite a bit across the transfer as well when I did the last one. So I'm just doing the same process because everybody asked how to do the last one, so just keeping it very much the same way. Now we'll get to rubbing some of this back in a minute. I'm just gonna take it right down into those and all the grooves, right down to the bottom. Don't be shy with your dark wax. In down here, put it across here, Sorry, I'm puffing and panting. I'm a bit out of shape. That's that waxing that has made me exhausted. All right, so we've got that on there like that. Now let's start dealing with this. This is the same cloth that with the clear that I used for the excess of the clear wax when I was doing it. So first of all, I want to kind of get rid of some of this because I want the dark wax to sit in where we sanded. It's a little bit of transfer there. It's there. So you can see all the dark wax is sat nicely in there. You want that. So I'm clearing that up first. That's the first thing I'm doing. Now what I'm doing is I'm just going to get my finger and then just kind of actually just scrape that with my nail. That was silly. Just rub this out. You're fanning out your kind of darker areas into your piece. So you're fanning them right out from the center. So you're fanning it out here, and I'll show you this side as well. So I'm just getting my cloth, and if you think you haven't got enough dark wax on it and you want a little bit more, just add some and then just fan it out like that. Really want to kind of give it a sort of real bit of dimension round about the center. I'm just going to put a little bit more on here. Get in there and then fan that out down in the sunflower here and down to the bottom. Just going to do this and then rub that out. Now, once you're kind of happy with this, and I'll probably tinker with this a little bit off camera in a minute, I want to put some dimension around these edges. Just darken them up as well now. Because what you should have left when you've done this is dark, 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 light, dark. If this is what you want, maybe you don't want the dark wax, and that's fine. You could even try things like this using white wax. White wax isn't a wax I use very often. I tend not to use it too much, but you could do things like this. And all I'm doing is just rubbing this around so that it's not harsh on my piece and I don't have a big line. Now, the next thing that's going to happen is I'll get Martin to put the handles on. I'll show you quickly the handles. I ended up buying, I've got tons of handles, but I couldn't find handles that suited the piece. So I'm going to be putting these ones on so you can still see the green through it. And I'll probably touch this area up here with a little bit more gold just to make it a bit more gold, but I'll get them to put them on first. And I'm going to get them to drill through where I made the keyhole and set those in there nicely. So I just ordered these up. I just thought that I didn't want something to detract from the piece, and also I wanted something quite small and neat. So this is what I opted for. So I'll just finish off the start waxing and then we'll have the staging and I'll show you what I've done with it. And it's finished, just like that. What did we do today? We painted it, well, no, we put molds on it first in whatever orientation you want, put your molds on. Painted it, we blended it, so we made sure that we got our blend correct and we were able to blend through our molds. We put gold gilding acrylic on, we sealed it with wax, we put a dark wax stencil on it, we put an IOD transfer in the middle, we did some sanding, a bit of distress, we added some red parts just to kind of like balance out this red. And that's it. And look at the cute little handles. And I just painted the front of those with the gold just to make it all. This is the same, exactly the same process as the big one, just in smaller form. And obviously the mold orientation is different and the shape is different. But the shape you choose, you can choose whatever template to work from. So I've been Lel from Made by Marley. Thank you very much for watching. If you normally watch, well, thank you so much. And if you're new, consider subscribing to our channel. I do lots of furniture reimagining and upcycling. And I'd like to thank everybody who's bought our decoupage paper. And obviously now we have Julie, who's in Texas at Purple Monkey Manor. So if you're in America and you're looking for decoupage paper, or you're wanting to know where our stockists are, then Julie's your woman to get in touch with. And if you like this video, give us a like, leave me a comment if you've got any questions on it, and push the bell notification so that you're notified when we do our next video. I never get any better at this. But that's it. That's it for today. So I'll see you again another day. Bye bye.